Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
We're trying for 2 weeks in a row broadcasting this live. I didn't let anyone know that we were going live, though. So that's a failure on my part. It was a very spontaneous, are you ready to go live? Yes, excellent. WhatsApp conversation, and you jumped 10 minutes later over to your studio and we could set it up. So it was a bit impromptu.
That's all right. I was very excited last week. I saw it back and I was quite pleased with it. And it's an adrenaline booster.
Excellent. You found it thrilling going live to your YouTube audience and your Facebook audience. Good. Yeah, so we're doing this on, it's so funny that we don't usually get to record these so early. It's usually Sunday night or Saturday night. I'm trying to cram it in, but we're actually going away to Bath for a wedding this weekend, so we're going to be away from Friday to Sunday. So it was kind of either now or a very knackered Steve on Sunday night trying to broadcast this live and get this out for this week. So I thought we'd get in early. Plus, you've given us something to talk about as well, Dad.
Yes, indeed. Oh, yes. Well, I think last week I did show very briefly the sketch, didn't I, that I was going to do. You wouldn't have seen it very, very well, but I think you got the idea. Well, I've advanced it a little bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing just a little bit. There's so much to talk about with this that I thought rather than do the whole thing and then just skip over, I thought we'd do it a bit at a time, because I think people have probably been fascinated with the idea of putting watercolour and pastel pencil in one picture, particularly now as I'm using pastel matte paper, which is proving to be very, very good, and I'm very pleased with it. So, and you'll see in a moment, the picture, and then I can talk you through it. What I've done with this, just before we show it, I sent it to you today, and what I did sort of some and some. I mean, it's all watercolour, and I can't demonstrate that. I can't demonstrate the pastel at the moment, but I can show you what I've done, and I'll leave it to when we see the picture to explain further. But I've done some half and half bits, so you'll see some that's done, some that ain't.
Good stuff. Excellent. Well, let's wait no longer. Let's put it up on the screen so everyone can see. Right, this is the picture that you sent me today. Should be up on the screen for everyone to look at. So yeah, you showed us the sketch last week, which people can still see here, and you've done your usual start at the top. I assume you turned the picture around, got out your wash, did That's it the right. normal way. Even though it's with pastel matte, I assume it still runs off exactly the same as watercolor paper.
No, you can see from the outline of that it's on the grey, but it is certainly receptive. Now, I've used the pastel matte paper on the ombre. You probably remember way back, I did it on the ombre paper, and that was quite successful. But the pastel matte is better because you have more grip. Now, that doesn't apply to the watercolor, of course. You don't need it. But when you come to put the pastel pencil on top, which is I'm going to show you what I've done, then you get a better grip. So why don't you use pastel on its own? Well, you could. I mean, I could do this picture again and just use the pastel pencil. But the idea is that I want to introduce people to the possibility of using both, because there's a lot of people would like to do watercolor and be scared of it. Well, doing this, you've still got to be careful. You can't hide mistakes that easy, but you can enhance. So going back to what you said about the sky, what I did with the sky is work a blue, and I work some white as well. You wouldn't think you need white, but you do. And so a little ochre as well. And I mix a wash up. I also make sure, yes, keep it on the other side, Steve, the other side. That's it. Stay there, because that's just watercolour. And I can explain to you. So what I do is I turn it upside down. Now the reason for that is that if you were to splosh water on the top and it had it slightly at an angle, the water would run down onto the picture, and I'd have little streaks running down the detail that I want to use, like in this case, the church or the buildings. Now you can't really get rid of that. Once that's on there, you've got the blue tint to it, and it makes it very awkward. Well, if you turn it upside down, I know it sounds a bit awkward, but actually it is much better, because any streaks that run onto either, in my case, the board or my cloth or wherever, everywhere but the actual picture that you're going to be producing. Now, what I did then is I use a watercolor mix. You can't see it clearly, but that would have been at the top of that sky. You'll see it's darker than the bottom. Are you with me? Can you see that? There's a slight difference. Now that's natural. That's what it is. If you were to look out the window, not now because it's dark, but on a blue, cloudy summer day, you'd see plenty of blue in the sky, and towards the horizon, you'd find it lighter. Then as you move up, it gets darker. So I follow the natural instinct of working like a natural blue sky. Now, you don't have the blue sky, but it's nice to have a blue sky in this case, because it makes a picture look that bit nicer. Now, once you've done that, you put the wash on. You've got to be fairly swift, but not rush it. And then once that's on, then you put a darker blue. I've already made the wash up if in your palette, a darker blue along the top, and that melts into the color you've done. So you don't get any line. I mean, if you look at that section in the middle there, above the cloud, there's no line there. You wouldn't know that I'd done what I've just told you I did. Anyway, once that's done and you're happy that you've got it right, you turn it back up the right way. And by that time, it's only damp. It's not wet anymore. That's gone. So you've got a damp. And then fairly quickly, I work with my paintbrush. Let me I can't just show you a picture, but this is the paintbrush I'll be using here. You kind of dab it on like that. In fact, I can show you.
Well, just as it's a dry paintbrush, just a dry paintbrush.
This is a dry one.
Yeah, but like, is that what you use? Do you use a dry paintbrush to take some off?
No, you make sure there's no water on it, but it's damp. It's damp, right? It has to be damp. And then you dab in the clouds like that. Okay? And that then brings that whiteness back. Then I get hold of a bit of this, bit of tissue, scrunch it up like that, and dab on the clouds. So you can imagine, if you're looking at the picture now, I'd be dabbing on those clouds. And with experience, and I've had a lot of experience now with watercolor, you can get it looking like that. That's just by putting the tissue on, right? Now, once you've done that, and they're fairly happy with it, you can go back once it's kind of almost dry. You can go back and you can touch in little bits of it with a wet paintbrush this time, not really wet, but damper than it would have been. And then you can just take little bits off the clouds. That's how I can get those little streaky bits. I mean, you're going to see this. People are going to be watching this anyway because I filmed it. So you'll be able to see what I've done. But it gives you almost perfect, isn't it? It's almost a perfect sky. And my skies used to be like that at one time. Move along now to the other side, Steve. That's it. That's it. Now, what a difference is there, Colin? What you done? Well, I wanted to make this just a little stronger. So what I've done there is put pastel pencil on. I've used the white and the grey, a little bit of ivory, and the when I say the grey, it's 230 grey. And I've used, see that little dark cloud that's creeping in from behind?
Yeah.
I put that as an afterthought. That was 233. And you put that on with the pastel pencil. And then you use these other magic tools that we've got here, colour shapers. I use two colour shapes actually when I'm doing this. One is the flat number chisel, right? That gives you this kind of round, smooth blending movement. Then I can use this one, which is the pointed one, to get more detail.
Show the camera a little bit. I just want to get a little nice shot of that on the camera. Can you just bring that? Camera's on your left-hand side.
Over here.
Yes, it. Down.
Yeah, I'm trying to see it on my screen. Yep. Is that right? Is that all right?
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah. So that's the pointed one.
So you can see one is chisel and one is a pointed one. Not very pointed. Now I use both of those, and I use both of those to get that smoothness. Bear in mind, I put it on with the white and the grey, but that is the difference. Now this is half and half. That's the half that I've done on the left-hand side of the church. On the right, hasn't been done yet. So you've got a before and after. But if you look at the whole thing now, it looks odd. It looks very odd. But when you see it next week, all of that area of sky will be done. And that'll be finished. So have I done this after I've put the trees on? Yes, I have. Now, you don't have to. Ordinarily, Stephen, I wouldn't do that. I would do it before I put the trees in. But for the sake of this, I want you to do here is to put the trees in so that you can see that and the other. And again, I've done some and some with those trees. You see, we've got two levels, haven't we? Well, we can have a third level, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted the distance trees. Now, distance trees are further back. So I use a lighter, sort of light greeny colour, a bit of lemon yellow, but not strong. It was quite weak, and you can see that it's compared with the trees in the front, which have been with a stronger tone of green, then you set against the one at the back. But if you look to the right of the church, you can see that part of that, just by the second chimney along, you can see it looks a bit weaker, doesn't it? That's it, Steve. Go in a bit closer. That's fine. That's a bit weaker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Down there is I've used the 230, which is the grey, and gone over the top to push further back.
Oh, that's clever. I wouldn't have known that from looking at that. I would have just thought that's just a weaker wash, like a weaker colour, but you've put pastel on top of that.
No, I did it deliberately so that I could show you this half and half business. I shall carry on all the way along with that. And that gives you like a distance tree. I won't put any more detail in it. That will be it.
Wow, interesting. It's a good, you can kind of manipulate the watercolor after you've applied it with the pastel pencils. Obviously not too much, I imagine, just little tweaks here and there, because it's not going to completely change your watercolor that you've put on, but certainly affect it.
You wouldn't be able to, Steve. Once you commit yourself to the watercolor, it's irreversible. You can't do anything about that. This is why people are frightened of watercolor, because unlike pastel pencil, you could get a putty rubber and dab it off, or if necessary, you could rub it out. But watercolor, you can't do that. So what you do is carry on with what you have done. But I took a bit of care, and as I say, when you see the picture completed with the instruction and narration, you'll see that I go all the way along there, and you can see how I can pick out little bits. I can go, and I will go back over that next time we see you, hopefully next week, we'll have that tree, the whole tree area finished. It's getting there.
Yeah. And will you add in other colours to the trees with pastel pencils?
Yes, you can see already. You can see there's well, that is watercolor at the moment. The roof of the church, above the roof of the church, you'll see there's browny tints to it.
Yeah.
That's 182, as well as green. So I've added that. That was done with watercolor. It just gives you a setting. It gives me an idea when I come to do the pastel pencil, which I shall do. I shall use the, this is the 182, I shall use that. And of course the darker greens, and possibly a little 175 touched in there as well, just to give a little bit of extra depth. But I'm not knocking Quinton, he just had watercolor. But I can improve upon the appearance of this picture on the picture he's done. And that's a lovely picture he's done, it really is. And but he would have loved to have had the facilities I've got, because he could have gone to town there and improve it. One other little thing that I'd like to explain to you before we leave you, see how accurate the church, can you go right close on the roof of the church, Steve, as close as you can get on the roof of the church? That's it. What a lovely line there. How did you do that in watercolor, you might ask? How did you get a straight line like that?
Yeah.
Well, it was pretty well straight, I've got to say. That's it. It was pretty well straight. But because we're using pastel pencil as well, I then went along with 168. That's 168 green. And if I can get, yes, 174 green, both of those two colors. And one of them, a rule.
So you drew a line in pastel?
Well, I put that on, imagine that I put that on the line, okay? And then I use the green, first of all, the 168, just to trace a line. You can't see it. Well, you probably could now, you're that close, you can actually see the darker along the edge. Can you just pick that out?
Yeah, let's so is it like this bit here?
Yeah. Got a funny looking chimney pot there though, Steve, hasn't he? That's the one thing you can't really go, you could, but it's in fact all the chimney pots. But if you look on the right, those chimney pots look a bit better, don't they?
Yeah.
On the left of the now I've worked on them. So what you do is when it comes to those as well, they're all.
I think it's good to see, you know, the state of it at the moment, because obviously it's going to be complete, and it's good to see it at this point, isn't it?
Well, can I tell you how I'm going to get that looking accurate? Well, just another little trick. I'm giving all my tricks away here. This brush is probably the one I would use. It's a number 3, I believe. It did have a point one time. That's gone, but that doesn't matter. What I should do is wet that. I should have thought about this actually ahead of time, and I could have done a couple. You wet that, and then you use one of these magic tissues again, and you go over that very finely. Keep going, dabbing, put it a bit more, dab. This is all water. Replenish it if you like. You can't have it wet because it will spread, but damp. Keep going until eventually I can get that almost, I wouldn't say it perfect, but almost absolutely clear.
Wow. Just enough to get pastel on it, or another watercolor on it.
That's right, exactly. No, I wouldn't put it in watercolor. I would probably do it. Well, yes, I probably would put watercolor first of all, but I'm not sure. I'd have to make light chimney pots. I can't have dark ones can't have dark ones against dark trees. It's got to have a contrast. But they're probably grey, or I might put a little, what colour should, probably orange, I imagine. Something like 109 in Faber range, something like that. But I shall put the watercolour before I do that. I won't just put the pastel on. The pastel really has got to go over the top of the watercolour.
Yeah.
You might not think that's possible, but otherwise it's not going to look right. I've got to cover the whole of the picture with watercolour.
Because the watercolor dries. The pastel is a dry medium, but it would spread.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So yeah, no, it makes sense.
This is the beauty of me being able to do the instructional video, and that will come. So you'll be able to see me do all of that. But it's one thing that I do find it's fascinating to do, really interesting.
It's interesting to talk about, and especially see it at this early stage as well, to see how you're finding it.
I shall have done the church next week, and my plan is to do the church. I always work back to front. I mean, the sky is furthest away, so I start with that. And then I come to the distant trees, and then to the more forward trees. The only exception to that rule is I've put the bushes in the front of the church. Now, I've done that because I wanted to see the relationship between the colours I'm going to put on the church, which will be a bit of ochre, a grey. It'd be grey mainly, with a little bit of ochre added as well. So that would be the colour of the church. And I don't think I can get stained glass windows in there. That's a bit tight. But you never know. I might be able to.
Fantastic. It's looking a really strong start, I must say. It's looking very strong, and I can't wait to see the update next week. I'm sure everyone else is eager to see as well what you do, not only with those chimney pots, but also those windows on the church. That's fantastic. Well, we haven't had any this week, but in future lives, if you do want to ask us a question as we're recording, or you think of a question afterwards, comment on the video, because all these recordings are available straight away after. So drop us a comment, drop us a question. You can always email your questions over, and we can talk about it on the next podcast. But if you are able to tune in live, if I can give everyone enough notice when we're going live so they can watch us, then you can have your questions ready and ask us live, and we can take the questions and answer them. But yeah, thank you, Dad, for sharing that insight into this Quinton masterpiece with watercolor and pastel. I hope people have found this interesting, and we will leave it there for this week. So thank you everyone for watching and for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Enjoy your week.